Hello, everyone. Welcome to Zenin Fanfics. Today we are featuring What If Deku Becomes Famous Blacksmith? The story is written by Momola on fanfiction.net. Before we start, please like and subscribe for more content. Now let's dive into the story. Izuku Midoriya was the biggest blacksmith where he lived. Not because he was the most gifted, but because he lived in the rocky and subterranean kingdom of the dwarves, also called the Fortress of the Arts. And he wasn't one himself. Izuku was human. He had been welcomed among this people very young with his mother after his father died in battle to save one of their own. Between Izuku's father and this dwarf, it had been true friendship. It was rare occurrence for a human being to settle in the subterranean kingdom, but they were infatuated with the kind Inko Midoriya and her well-mannered son. Izuku was very much loved. He was part of the tribe, so he was allowed to learn the wonderful knowledge of the dwarves in the field of blacksmithing. He had learned a good part of his childhood to forge weapons with talent, and when he was old enough, he went up in the human kingdom with his mentor to start a huge project. The Fortress of Arts was underground, but built just beneath the realm of humans, in Musutafu. Far to be barbarians, however, they lived in a great place that was prowess of technologies and architecture. With all might, the dwarf not so small who had taught him everything. They built a smithy on the surface in a popular human city where they sold and forged for all the creatures of the world. A secret passage connected the two kingdoms, and Izuku, being human, was an ideal intermediary with the population. In the smithy also worked Todoroki Shoto, a mage elf and Izuku's childhood friend. One morning while he was busy making a medium-sized sword, a group of adventurers entered the forge. They were 6 for boys and 2 girls. One of them seemed to lead the pack. He was tall, had big red eyes, ash-blonde hair, and far too many protruding muscles for Izuku's comfort. He looked bad-tempered. The blacksmith sighed internally and hoped they would not make any fuss. "Hey, face, I want to see the MSTR of this place. Midoriya Deku." The young man threw at Izuku, who was shirtless, all sweaty in front of his fire, and very much not in the mood, but polite anyway. "It's Midoriya Izuku, and it's me," he replied, simply giving a more powerful mass shot on his glowing sword. "Seriously? I need you to repair a piece of equipment of mine, but it's a meticulous job, so if you don't feel able to do it, don't touch it," replied the adventurer, handing him a pair of black metal gauntlet with engravings. Midoriya stared at him for a moment and put down his work to grab the object. He observed it carefully and subweighed it, then passed his rough fingers on it with delicacy. The blonde looked at him without saying anything and with a kind of apprehension. "Come on, kid. How many more hours do you need to look at it to tell me if you can fix it?" he asked impatiently. "Baku, bro. We talked about it. If you talk like that to merchants, they will send you away. It's a great forge in here. They don't need your money," declared a man behind him with red hair and sharp teeth. "No harm done," said Izuku with kindness. "I can repair this, but it will be expensive." "Yeah, how much?" asked the blonde, crossing his arms. 300 gold coins. "This is theft." "It's a job, as you said, that takes time and precision. It seems like a fair price to me. You can always bring it to the other blacksmith of the city, but it would surprise me if he told you a better price," Izuku said, giving him his gauntlets back. "No way I'm giving my SHD to the other smithy. It's a gang of incompetent dumbass. I only had to take a dagger on a stole to see it was amateur work. You'll have to go through us then. Are you really better than them? You're like 3, a face, a dwarf, and an elf." "This is a weird association," said the blonde. "An association of 3 cultures and skills." Izuku answered by grabbing a dagger on a workbench and handing it to the man by the handle. The blonde seized it and raised his eyebrows in surprise. It was a very good dagger. It could be seen at a glance, but once in the hands it was obvious. It was solid, well balanced, and well finished. It weighed just enough and was nicely decorated. A pale blue light slowly emanated from the blade, meaning the thing had some powers. The blonde looked up at the blacksmith, who was the one waiting now with his arms crossed. "It works for me. I entrust it to you to repair it," declared the man, giving his gauntlets again to Midoriya. "Good. Can I have a name for my register?" "Bakugou Katsuki." "It's noted. You'll have it back at the end of the week, Bakugou." Nah, I need it tomorrow, Deku. And you're not my only customer. I don't care, I need... He was cut short by the arrival in great fanfare of the chief of the Human Kingdom's army, General Ida Tenya, who had thought necessary to bring part of the guard with him into the small forge of Izuku. My greetings, Izuku Midoriya. I'm coming in the name of His Majesty the King for a most urgent order. I was talking for eyes. Bakugou screamed, irritated, and clapped his fist on the table. Izuku was already exhausted of this day. Shut your mouth. Mercenary, you cut off the representative of your king. I'm my own king. But the general ignored him. He marked a pause and with an anxious face declared, you have to forge 180 enchanted swords with heavy armors for the high guard of the king, and the delay for this is 2 weeks. We want the same as the prototypes you sent us last month. In 2 weeks. I can do it, but I need more time. The amount you're giving me is ridiculous. Even if I had the res sources, it's physically impossible in 2 weeks. The king added that, if you don't deliver your order in time, this place will be burnt and you won't have the right to exercise on our lands anymore. What? But it's nonsense. Ida, think for 2 seconds. I'm sorry, Izuku. It's the king's orders. Here's the official missive, Tenya said, giving him a roll parchment. He just wants to ruin my business then. He hates dwarves and elves. He's purposely asking me something impossible. Sorry, Izuku, but it's not a free request of the king. We're going to war. What? What war? Against who? The decision was made this morning. Against the dragons. Bakugou frowned. The dragons? But why? They have their temper for sure, but they didn't attack us yet. The king felt that prevention was better than cure. The king has gone mad. We'll all be killed. I'll pretend I didn't hear that. But I believe in my words, Ida. It's madness and it's unfair. They're people like any other. We can't just attack them because they're a little abrupt. Bakugou laughed. Do you find that funny? Tenya asked with a big frown. The nerd's right. You're all going to get screwed, Bakugou said with a grin. We don't discuss the king's orders. He knows what is good for the country. And with the high-end equipment of Midoriya, you might have a chance with my tools, but I'll never get it all done in 2 weeks, Ida. How long do you think it'll take to gather the materials already? The prototype I sent you is in green obsidian. This is a very rare material that is found only far from here. I'm sure you'll find solution, Tenya said before walking away heavily into the clatter of his armor. Izuku dropped into a chair and slid a hand in his curly green hair. Todoroki came to, stand next to him, and placed a hand on his shoulder. Well, sounds like somebody will close soon, said Bakugou without pity. Be kind, Bakugou. The boy will lose his forge. I know you have a heart somewhere under all those muscles, a girl with pink hair said, trying to give him a pat, but Bakugou dodged. I'm not going to lose anything at all, Izuku said, raising his head with a determined face. You are mercenaries, aren't you? What if we are? Asked a man with long dark hair, trying to look impressive. The 2 women rolled their eyes. So I'm hiring you. You're going to come with me to the south, and you're going to help me gather the materials I need quickly. You'll protect me on the road and fight the monsters. Izuku, my boy, start at All Might. I don't want to hear anything Tashinori. I won't lose the forge. We're going to honor the king's order. I'm going to give him his equipment in 2 weeks. And what's in for us? We don't risk our lives for nothing. Even if you offer us a lot of money, I'm not sure it's worth it. The South is no joke, declared another mercenary whom the others had called Denki. Are you afraid? If you accept, I'll pay you, and I'll repair Bakugou's gauntlets tonight, free of charge. You seem to hold on to it, right? I work well. You won't find better than me in this area. Okay, it works for me, Deku, said Bakugou, shaking his hand. It's Izuku. It's Deku if I wanted to be Deku, the blonde said, crushing his hand. Okay then, Kakin. Bakugou lost his grin, and the rest of the group giggled. The terrifying Kakin tried Denki before taking a blow on the head. Bakugou looked into Izuku's big green eyes firmly and said, I'll come get my gauntlets tomorrow morning before the sunrise, and we'll go with you to get your SHD in the south. Come on, losers. We're out, Katsuki said with a wave of his hand to his group. They left the smithy, and Izuku turned to Shoto and All Might with a sorry look. I don't understand why the king declares war to dragons. It's suicide. The dragons weren't a part tribe in the world. They were humanoids capable of becoming authentic dragons or vice versa. They were known for their thirst for BLD and their innate inability to show civilized most of the time. It was a barbarous race who loved to enjoy themselves and to indulge in the pleasure of the flesh. However, all their defects were not societal and cultural. They were for certain unable to control themselves fundamentally. Their dragon's BLD awakened impulses that they couldn't fight. To declare war on them, even though they were in a PRD of peace, was beyond comprehension. The blacksmith spent the night on these bloody gauntlets. It wasn't like the type he's used to work on. It was clearly a creation of the Dragon Kingdom. He recognized the engravings and materials. Moreover, it was a work of high quality. Izuku wondered what Bakugou was doing with such an object. He didn't look like a dragon, but he was clearly a fire mage if he used that kind of weapon. After 6 hours of work, Shoto came to put a blanket on his back, and Izuku cut himself with the gauntlets out of surprise. "Oh, SHD. Sorry, Izuku," Shoto said before taking a cloth for his bloody hand. Once the gauntlets made contact with Midoriya's BLD, it began to heat up and emit a dim light. "It's BLD magic," that thing said Izuku in whisper. "I don't know how I didn't notice." "I didn't feel it either. It was well hidden. Well, I'm not against BLD magic, but I like to know on what I put my hands. I know that kind of spell. The more BLD there is, the more powerful it become," explained Shoto. "What the hell? It's a metal that boosts its power with BLD. You shan't have asked these people to help us. I don't think they're evil. It's just a weapon. We can't assume who they are with just that. Everything in this forge is made to kill or protect. I'll come with you, to keep an eye on you and your too nice heart. If you could protect me from them, I wouldn't have to ask for help in the first place. I want to go anyway." "Okay, I won't change your mind, so thank you for the blanket and try to get some sleep." "You too. I have to finish this thing. I'll go after, okay?" "Okay." The next morning, Izuku had dark circles under the eyes. Just before sunrise, however, the Bakugou gang came to the forge with all the punctuality of the world. Izuku opened the front door, narrowing his eyes as the light reached his eyelids, and came face to face with Bakugou. The latter looked even more bad-tempered than the day before, so Izuku didn't smile when he gave him his things. "Here are your gauntlets, brand new. If you allow me, that's an ed-up weapon to have." Bakugou noticed the cut on Izuku's finger. He put a mocking grin on his face and answered, "Good work on this, dumbass. Maybe there is something to do with you." "What's that supposed to mean?" "Come on, we're going fetch your SHD. Give me 5 minutes to, hey." "I said now," Bakugou said, straddling his horse and going away with his squad like a rabbit. Izuku woke Shoto in panic, and they grabbed their backpacks and tools. They put them on their elven deers hastily and joined the group of Bakugou. Fortunately, the deers were much faster and taller than the horses. Shoto glared at the group, and Izuku galloped side by side with Bakugou, barely resisting sending him something in his head as he was unbearable. "Gonna be a long trip for you guys," said the redhead with a sympathetic smile. "By the way, we didn't really introduce ourselves. I'm Kirishima Idru. The girl, there's Kyokujiro. Then there's Ashido Mina, Kaminari Denki, Sirohana, and Bakugou. We're the Baku squad. Do you want me to rip off your tongue?" Bakugou asked coldly. "He looks mean, but he's a good guy underneath," Kirishima said with certainty. "Just have to look very far," added Mina. "I want to believe you. I am Izuku Midoriya, and here is Shoto Todoroki. I am a human, but I lived most of my life with the dwarfs, and Shoto is a very talented mage elf." "Oh, nice to meet you, Todoroki. It's rare to see an elf working with humans." "I have my reasons. They're personal." "Oh, I see. Well, do you at least know where you're going like that?" asked Izuku to Bakugou to change subjects. "I was waiting for your brain to work and tell me where to go, Deku. To the south, go to the Ua River first. I believe your fire magic will be very useful in that kind of hot places. I'm effective everywhere. You'll see." Bakugou threw his horse at full gallop, and Izuku pulled on the HRNSS of his deer to follow him. "It's an elven deer?" asked Bakugou after a time. "Yes. Did you ever see one? Its name is Pepe. It's a present from Shoto." "Rarely. They're appealing creatures, faithful and strong. Nice to see you're able to appreciate something. I enjoyed your work on my gauntlets. I told you it was good work. Maybe, but your compliments look like insults. It's not my fault if you're a weakling. I'm not. A silence ensued, and Izuku felt the need to speak. Where are you from, Bakugou? You have a dragon gauntlet, so you must have been in their kingdom once. It's not something you can buy in just any marketplace. Not something that usually leave their kingdom. And it's old despite its brand new look. Since their borders are closed now, it means you had it for at least 5 years. And there's a coin on the top with the face of Dragon Queen Mitsuki, so those gauntlet are at least 10 years old. So you've been there, or someone you knew have been there, and had money. Because that thing must be really expensive even if I don't know a lot about dragon currency. But I think it's yours from the beginning. The size, the look, it fits you. You're a BLD mage, right? And a fire elementalist. But you're not a long-range striker, am I right? Or else you would use a wand. I bet you make explosions with the gloves. With your temper and all, I don't see you simply throw fire lines. The Baku squad watched Izuku as if he were some sort of witch from the abyss. You have a baby face, but you're dangerous, began Katsuki. You can say that much just by looking at a weapon? I guess so. Didn't told you were right, though. You can stop muttering anyway, nerd, because I'm not telling you SHD. Okay. It's crazy Midoriya. That was awesome. Do it with me, exclaimed Kirishima with his arms up in the air. What is he? An attraction? Are you in a festival? Asked Jairu. I'm sorry. I'm always muttering. It's an old habit. I was kind of lonely as a child, said Izuku, embarrassed. Did you live with the dwarves all your life? What's it like? Shiro asked with interest. They have an image of gruff people because of their long beard and their outspokenness, but they're actually very picky about politeness and good manners. It's a united people who pulls themselves up. They don't want to mix with the rest of the world, Todd. It's a shame. Why did you have the right to live in their kingdom? Asked Mina. My father died saving his dwarf friend. They felt that they owed something to my mother and me, and then we integrated well, and no one wanted us to live anywhere else, explained Izuku. It must be your eyes. You really have pretty eyes, exclaimed Mina, smiling. Thank you, Izuku replied shyly. Bakugou glanced at him and made a mocking face. Todoroki, you have to let go a little bit of information. Why does a pretty elf like you work in a smithy? Asked Kirishima. Because I like casting spells, and Izuku is easy to live with, answered Todoroki with a straight face. The worst is that he is surely honest with this answer, joked Denki before hitting his horse without doing it on purpose and galloping without control. After a few hours, they stopped at an inn. They ordered food and drinks and talked a little bit more. Todoroki was more open after riding all day, and Bakugou had loosened his tendency to insult everything. However, other travelers made their appearance in the inn. It was a group of 5 dragons, but not just any. The dragons' tribes worked in ranks systems, and the higher they were, the more they allowed themselves things. SHD, these are S rank, complained Kirishima. And under the astonished eyes of Izuku and Shoto, the band performed a series of movements like a rehearsed choreography. Kirishima wrapped his arm around Denki, and Shiro wrapped both of his around Mina and Jairu. To Izuku's greatest surprise, Bakugou passed his own arm around him. Todoroki stayed there dumbfounded. What are you? Began Izuku, but Bakugou cut him fast. Shut up and wait. It's for your own good. You're too pretty for them to leave you alone. Izuku blushed brightly and waited for the next events. The group of dragons approached their table and watched everyone. They looked disappointed and then continued on their way. The Baku quad blow off some steam, but one of the dragons came back to them with stubbornness. He stared at Izuku with the face of a predatory. Bakugou then stuck his nose and mouth on Midoriya's cheek and stared at the dragon in the eyes with a cold, nasty look. Izuku turned bright red and waited for the conflict to stop without understanding. The dragon gave up and continued on his way. The group sighed, and everyone let go of everyone. What just happened? Did you dissuade them from flirting with us? Izuku deduced. He knew a little about dragons' customs, but not that much. Flirting, the word is too nice. It's a barbarian thing of their own. We had to make it look like you were not available. Otherwise, they would have harass you until you agree to sleep with them, Kirishima explained. We've already lived it. Ranks S had been harassing Denki, Mina, and Kyoka until we had a fight with them. It's a high-ranking dragons thing. They think they can have anything they want, but they have a code that says you don't hunt a prey already taken. A prey, Izuku repeated. Yeah, well, Bakugou is right. You're so cute they wouldn't have let you go. Todoroki is okay because they don't like elves very much, Siro said before drinking some of his mead. If they sleep here tonight, you'll have to sleep with me, Deku Bakugou added as he sipped. What? Otherwise they'll stay around your room and RPE you in your sleep. Trust me, there is nothing you can do about these guys. But if you're with me, you'll be okay, since I managed to scare them. They won't try to fight me, explained Bakugou. Shocked? You've stayed too long with your well-mannered dwarves. I'm not shocked, just surprised. And I'm strong. I'm a blacksmith, remember? They don't know that. And if they are 5 to come to you, blacksmith or not, you'll be screwed. 5? All the 5? Hey, I can sleep in your room, right? You didn't change your mind? Asked Izuku. Bakugou smirked. Izuku Midoriya was the biggest blacksmith where he lived. Not because he was the most gifted, but because he lived in the rocky and subterranean kingdom of the dwarves, also called the Fortress of the Arts, and he wasn't one himself. Izuku was human. He had been welcomed among this people very young with his mother after his father died in battle to save one of their own. Between Izuku's father and this dwarf, it had been true friendship. They chatted some more and drank for a good part of the evening until they were all a little drunk. Mina explained with graphic details the entire story of her love life, and Kirishima told about his own deep love story with Denki and Denki only. But how did you form your group of mercenaries? Izuku asked, starting his 4th pint of beer. He had a perpetual blush on the cheeks, and it brought out his freckles. Wow, you can really hold your liquor, man. This thing is separating my intestines in two. Siro commented while Midoriya drank again. Ah, the dwarves are always binge drinking. I learned to hold the shock to survive. Izuku replied with a laugh. But tell me, how did you guys met? There's a part that Bakugou bro will want to keep for himself, but I can tell you at least that we met before our majority. He showed up one day in our city screaming that he would become the greatest mercenary of all time, and those who wanted to share some of his future glory had to follow him, explained Kirishima with a very poorly executed imitation of Bakugou. The concerned almost spit out his beer. Wow, and you followed him? Izuku asked. We were all in SHD and desperately needed money. That's why. But he had arguments, you know. He was making explosions. There was something to exploit. We became friends after, and we never left each other since. We're pretty good now. We're not eating yet with gold dishes, but we're starting to get some fame. It's great to have a group of friends like that. It was hard for me to make friends. I have dwarf friends, of course, but I wasn't always very well accepted among the youth, even though adults loved me. And the Fortress of the Arts, as its name suggests, is a real fortress. I fled at night, through a hole in the library, to try to discover the surface. That's how I met Shoto. Izuku, in turn, explained with a happy face. You were so nice and naive. No wonder dwarven kids made fun of you, Todoroki said with a fond smile. But that's what makes you so charming. Yeah, you're so nice, Izuku. It's going to play tricks on you. Mina exclaimed with foggy and unfocused eyes. It's nice to chat with you anyway. My forge is in danger, and yet I feel like I'm on vacation, declared Izuku with a sad smile. If being threatened to have your business exploded by a mad king and traveling uncomfortably with a bunch of drunk strangers sounds like a vacation to you, it was time you had some. Denki laughed. But you know what, Izuku? I'm impressed by you. How old are you exactly? I've seen pieces in your smithy. They're completely insane. You are so talented. Jiru exclaimed. I'm 24, answered Midoriya. So young, Kirishima shouted. What do you mean hair for brains? We're 26, declared Bakugou with a snarling tone. Yes, but I mean it's crazy the talent he has for such a young age. It must be his mentor's work. The big dwarf. I've never seen a dwarf that big, by the way. He's taller than Denki, said Katsuki. Actually, if you're referring to the showcase in the entrance, these weapons are all my work, and Shoto's corrected the blacksmith. Wow. Hey, are you making jewelry too? Asked Mina. What? Do you plan to place orders? You think we are rich? Asked Bakugou, frowning. I would like to fix that. She put a silver, engraved bracelet on the table. It was cracked and distorted. Something like that. I could fix it for you right now, said Izuku with one look. Really? But you don't have any forge. I have Shoto and my tools. I don't need anything else. He can make fire and ice. I had no intention of waiting to be back at the forge to start working on the king's order. I would never make it otherwise. I just need to buy a cart to store the materials. We are a real itinerant forge. I'll show you, explained Izuku. Izuku was probably more drunk than he looked because the prospect of lighting a fire in the middle of it didn't shock him. It was the innkeeper who was going to be happy. The blacksmith rummaged in his bag and pulled out a pair of black and very thick leather gloves. It seemed covered with a very rigid material in places. He then took Mina's bracelet in the palm of his hand and handed it to Shoto. With a pointed finger, threw a small flame that heated the bracelet until it turned bright red. Shoto's hands were covered in rings set with stones and artifacts. It allowed him to use his magic more easily and precisely than with a scepter or a staff. Izuku expertly took a small clamp with his other hand, straightened the thing, and redrew a piece of without being asked, surrounded the object with ice, and a thick smoke came out. The blacksmith then took a file and refined the metal in some places before asking Todoroki to heat the bracelet again. They repeated the operation several times under the amazed eyes of their comrades, and when he was satisfied, Izuku told Shoto. He took the bracelet with his two gloved fingers, and when he brought it to Shoto, he accidentally dropped it. Bakugou caught it with one hand just before he touched and burned Izuku's legs severely. Shoto covered it with ice in a second. Oh, by the gods, Kakin, are you okay? It's 700 degrees. How badly did you burn yourself? Izuku panicked. I'm fine, Deku. Be careful. You had enough alcohol for tonight, complained the blonde without a hint of pain in his voice. No, show me. It must have burned you. You caught a molten metal with bare hands. I'm telling you I'm okay. Half and half put ice on it before it had the time to burn. No, I know what I'm talking about. It must have done damages. Shoto made no comment on the nickname. Are you deaf? Said Bakugou, showing him his hand. It was indeed unscathed. Izuku didn't understand how. But it burned you. What about my bracelet? Asked Mina, ending the subject. Yes, sorry. Here, the fall didn't scratch it, exclaimed the blacksmith. Amazing. It's even prettier than before. You're a genius, said Mina, satisfied. Are these dwarf gloves? Ciro asked. Yes, they were tailor-made by the best one in the fortress. And I added some custom protections. He's a little in love with my mother, you know, but my mother is in love with somebody else. A love triangle. I love it, said Mina with a dreamy smile. Is it over with the smoke now? Shouted the innkeeper suddenly. What do you think you are? Izuku made a sorry sign with his hands, and they decided it was time to go to sleep. Before going to the room Bakugou had rented, Izuku went to see his deer and the horses that were tied up in front of the stable just outside the inn. He stroked Pepe with a small smile and gave him a treat. He did the same with Loon, Shoto's deer. He noticed the saddles were hung nearby. He was always watching everybody's equipment out habit. He recognized Bakugou's one and approached to observe the work. It was a peeling saddle. A name was engraved on it. Izuku read in a low voice. Lord Explosion Murder. What a name. He couldn't help but smile until he felt a hand resting on his shoulder. He turned around and had a thrill of horror. It was the dragon, the one who had trouble letting go of his case. Izuku turned around briskly and backed up against the stable wall. Hey, pretty, your boyfriend left you all alone? You're really cute, you know. Don't you want to come upstairs with me? I bet you have freckles all over your body. Come with me. I'll make you feel good. Feeling the danger, Izuku wanted to run away, but there was no way out. The dragon was tall enough, more than he was at least, and he was rather well built. The blacksmith's eyes darted from the left to the right in search of anything to pick up to defend himself, but there was nothing. The dragon approached and grabbed him by the arm. Izuku struggled. But we can do that here too, if you don't want to go to a room, said the dragon. The blacksmith kicked hard in the dragon's pee-pee with his knee, and the later fell before insulting him in the dragon language. I'll kill you, Beach, he added in the common tongue. He threw himself forward and grabbed Izuku by the throat. He then gave him a big kick in the ankle to make him fall on his knees. The dragon squeezed with all his might, and Izuku gasped. He scratched his hands, but the dragon didn't let him go. It was then that a powerful fire breath tore the dragon from his throat and sent him away. The air met the blacksmith's lungs again, and he looked to his left to see what happened. Bakugou Katsuki was there, his gloved hand stretched straight ahead. Smoke was coming out of it. He had just blasted the dragon. He approached Izuku apprehensively. "Are you okay?" "Did he?" But he was cut in his sentence by Izuku throwing himself into his arms. "No, he didn't. Because of you. Thank you. That BSDRD. They never learn." "Did you kill him?" "No, but maybe I should." "Leave him. He had enough, I think. You're pretty strong," Izuku said, moving away. Bakugou pretended not to appreciate the compliment. "It was nothing at all. Your elf friend, he's making fire too. You should be used to it. It's not the same at all. Shoto's fire is, I don't know, fire. Yours is, I could feel the magic in it. And it felt super powerful. It's not just fire." "You know what? You're too smart for your own good," the blonde said, nodding to him to get into the inn. Izuku took a step and gritted his teeth together with pain. "What have you now?" asked Bakugou with exasperation. "I think I sprained my ankle." "Actually, that guy sprained my ankle." "Seriously? You're really a weakling?" "Wow, it's swelling. Yeah, it looks bad, but I can't afford to be late. I'll have to go on with it." Bakugou sighed and put his arm around his waist to help him walk. They quickly took refuge in their room for the night. Shoto had insisted on sleeping with Izuku after the attack, but Bakugou refused, saying he didn't want to have to deal with two idiots instead of one. The elf could protect himself with his magic, which was not the case of Izuku. The proof was tonight. Shoto gave him a bucket filled with ice, however. Bakugou, now kind of sober, pulled out some bandages and a balm from his stuff. He sat Izuku on the bed and knelt before him. He had not yet bothered to take off his big fur, and having him so close to him with his great stature made Izuku nervous. He couldn't help but blush a little. The blonde took off his boots and wrapped ice in a cloth before asking Izuku to hold it on his leg. They waited a little in silence, and Bakugou removed everything to spend a large amount of balm on his ankle. It relieved Izuku immediately. "Your hands are hot. It feels nice, nicer than the ice. You know how to deal with this. Are you a doctor or something?" the blacksmith asked. "When you're fighting on a daily basis, you learn how to take care of yourself. So shut up, watch and learn. I'm not doing it for you again." The balm is plant-based. It's made of elven drelha, calendula, and other shits. "I see. It feels good. You'll have to give me the recipe." Midoriya smiled at him, and Bakugou wrapped his foot tightly in a bandage, totally on purpose to make him wince, and handed the cloth back to him. "Stay with that. Now I'm exhausted, so hurry to bed," complained the mercenary, removing all his gear. He found himself too quickly almost naked, and when he landed himself under the covers, it clicked. "We're going to sleep like together? In the same bed?" he asked. Bakugou rolled his eyes. "You see another bed, dumbass." "No, I mean, I can sleep on the floor. When you're lucky enough to have a comfortable bed, you sleep in it. What are you afraid of? Are you a virgin or something?" "I won't touch your sorry, but especially after what just happened," said Bakugou sleepily. The blonde settled and put the blanket over him. "Thank you for protecting me," said Izuku, entering under the sheets. "It's why you're paying me for." "Oh, that's true. You should let go of the blanket. My body warmed the bed, quite a lot according to Kirishima." "Oh, heat never bother me. I work in a forge, remember? And mage. What do you think about this war? It's ridiculous, isn't it? If the dragons comes in towns, the dwarves will close their borders. In all cases with this story, I'll be in deep SHD, muttered Izuku. "Kakin, if you don't close your big mouth, I'm putting you back outside to your destiny." "Okay, good night," Izuku said before trying to sleep. He could have had trouble falling asleep, but the almost sleepless night of the previous day got the better of him in a few minutes. Bakugou struggled to shut his own eyes, however. After an hour of wiggling in the bed, he sat up and watched the slumber figure of the blacksmith. Bakugou had the ability to see in the dark. He owed it to his origins, and he didn't bother to pay attention to it before, but he noticed at that moment that Deku was covered with freckles from head to toe. This guy had everything to get stuck in the back of an alley. he said to himself while looking away, blushing. He peered around him and finally grabbed one of his gauntlets on the little nightstand. He patted the coin on top with his fingertip and inspected in more detail the repair work done. It was really good work. The gloves were like new, and the damaged parts of the engravings had been redone almost identical. Bakugou wondered how Izuku did that without seeing the original. The blonde was indeed a battle mage who mastered fire and loved to make explosions. The gauntlets allowed him to control his power, protect his hands, and aim more easily. But they were not a necessity. He wasn't like most mages. He didn't really need an artifact like Shoto to be able to use his magic. He could do it with bare hands. Suddenly, Deku groaned in his sleep, and it pulled him out of his thoughts. A loud snoring followed. Great. The next morning, Izuku woke up slowly, his cheek stuck to Bakugou's naked, protruding chest, with a trickle of drool in bonus. When he realized that he was hanging on to the blonde like an octopus, he got up and pulled back in one move, red like a tomato, and waking the mercenary up. What's the dash? It's morning already. Well then, hurry, nerd. We have no time to waste if you want to save your forge, said Bakugou with a serious bed hair problem. Izuku got out of the sheets and prepared under Bakugou's satisfied gaze. He was more used to having to fight to wake up his troop. Nobody came in tonight, right? Izuku confirmed, pulling on his pants. You would know. Very reassuring. They went out of the room at the same time and came face to face with Todoroki, who was doing who knows what in front of the door. He looked at Izuku with a concerned face and spoke to him in Elvish so that Bakugou didn't understand a thing in his sentence. Yeah. On the bed, yeah. Izuku replied in the common language. Shoto continued to speak in Elvish. Bakugou felt sidelined. What? No. Gosh. Shoto. I just met him, shouted Izuku, turning red. Okay, I just wanted to know, replied the ice and fire mage while crossing his arms in a casual way. What's with that question? By the gods, Izuku exclaimed as he left. Bakugou stared at Todoroki and smirked before saying, if you want to speak without being understood, do it with someone less obvious than that one. Also, I can confirm we didn't have SEC together yet. And with these words, he went away, whistling. Shoto looked worried. Bakugou just wanted to tease him in truth. They took provisions for the road and got back on their mounts quickly after Bakugou threatened to explode them if they didn't hurry a little. It would take another day to go to the place that interested Izuku, the Porthiathui Mountains, where he would find his green obsidian and some other materials. After a good 2 hours of traveling, they crossed a medium-sized town, Balmoral, where they bought a cart, which was negotiated for almost half an hour, and resumed their journey. The announcement of the beginning of the war against the dragons had already spread like a fire in the night. People were talking a lot and loudly. The dragons were a relatively hated tribe by pretty much all ethnicities. They didn't respect anything people said. So a lot of humans were happy about the war despite what it implied. There was an order to attack them at sight. Nothing less. The Dragon Kingdom had its borders closed. It meant that the dragons themselves could come in and out at will, but no one else. So nobody really knew what was going on in there. And that was also why Izuku thought it was crazy to attack them. All they knew was that Queen Mitsuki ruled alone, that she was firm and had armies ready for battle. The dragons were almost all fire mages, in the sense that they could almost all produce flames from scratch. It was unusual that they could use another element, but it happened. Most of the time, a mage had the control of only one element, but people like Shoto were sometimes able to MSTR too. Izuku couldn't use anything. Arrived at the exit. Doors of a city, they were stopped by a guard. I beg your pardon, travelers, but you cannot pass the city doors. We're in a hurry, extra. Bakugou shouted, followed by a neigh of Lord Explosion Murder. Nay, nobody goes out of the town. Orders of the governor, explained the guard with assurance despite the fact that his armor looked too big for him. We went in, but we can't get out, Mina said with impatience. A crime just took place. We are closing the doors so that the killer can't go out, explained the guard. Did someone just die? Asked Denki. We only went through the main roads. Yes, by the way, that's suspicious, exclaimed the guard. You are not serious, said Kirishima. Our city always been peaceful, and here you go through the town, and someone dies," he added. "There is an elf among you. It is surely him." Todoroki looked at him with wide eyes. He was offended. "What? That's racist, man. Are you serious?" Mina shouted, visibly mad. "Your aggressiveness shows that you have something to reproach yourself." "Wow, calm down all of you," Izuku asked, raising his arms. "We only stopped to buy a cart. We didn't have the time to commit a crime." "We have been in contact with the ground for less than 30 minutes, shouted Zero. "But who is dead?" Kirishima asked. "You're annoying me, D-head. We're paid SCRT this one, and he doesn't have your time." Bakugou said, irritated. "No, but really, I don't see how me being an elf makes me the culprit," finally said Todoroki out of the blue. "So it's the one that says nothing in the back," exclaimed the guard, trying to look further away. "Now, I'm the murderer?" Jairu asked. "Listen, explain us the situation, and maybe we can help you," Izuku tried. "It's the guy who sold you the cart that died," said the guard. "What the dash?" said Denki. "I'm going to go forward and crush you with my horse, and then I'll blow your door out of my way," declared Bakugou very seriously. "No, we're not going to do that," Izuku clarified as he got off his deer. "Listen to me. I have an urgent matter to settle for the king," he said, pointing to his royal missive. "You wouldn't want to go against the king's orders, I believe." I know, of course, but someone is dead, and you are suspicious. I'm going to have to tell the king that your city is preventing its royal guard from receiving its equipments then." "No, you can go outside." Izuku suddenly noticed a strong smell in the air and a thick black smoke further into the city. "Please help me," suddenly exclaimed a woman while running in front of them. "You're a mage's right? I see the artifacts on your friend's hand. You have to help me, please. I'm begging you." "Shut up, woman. They're on a mission for the king," said the guard proudly. "No, wait, go on." Izuku asked. "Izuku, we don't have the time," Shoto complained as Loon began to graze. It's my husband who was killed just now, and they set fire to the house. My child is still inside. Please use your magic to extinguish the fire," the woman begged. Bakugou rolled his eyes, and Izuku looked like the little dog that had been kicked. He went back on his deer and asked the others to follow him. Shoto didn't approve, but followed him anyway. The woman led them to her house, and the sight was terrible. The house was already completely caught up in flames. If a child was in there, it was unlikely he would have survived. Shoto did his best to decrease the fire with his eyes, but it wasn't ideal. When the fire faded a little, Izuku rushed into the house without thinking. "Deku, Izuku Midoriya," exclaimed the group of adventurers. The blacksmith put his protective gloves on and looked around while covering his face. Luckily, it was a small house, and he quickly found the child lying on the floor in one of the bedrooms. He came out without any fuss with the child in his arms and some singed hairs. He put the child on the ground and found that he was dead. He held his breath and looked at the mother with a sorry look. She collapsed to the floor and cried. So Izuku also cried because seeing someone crying made him cry. People watched the scene in silence. The Baku squad stared at their shoes until Bakugou caught sight of Izuku's green and wet eyes. They stared at each other, and something crackled inside the mercenary. He seemed to hesitate for a moment, then looked at the mother. He knelt in front of the child's corpse. Izuku looked at him without understanding until he saw Bakugou take a knife and slice his hand. Izuku shouted and took Bakugou's wrist to stop him. "Do you want this kid to live or not?" asked Bakugou, annoyed. Izuku went silent and let him go. Bakugou put his bloody hand on the child and murmured a kind of incantation in a language that Izuku didn't know. He finished in the common tongue by, "Into dust, today you will not return." An intense warm red light invaded the body of the child, and he opened his eyes magically and began to breathe hard. The mother couldn't believe her eyes and almost fainted. Izuku and the Baku squad were astonished. Bakugou had just resurrected this kid. "It's BLD magic," cried one of the inhabitants. "He will bring misery and sickness to the city." It's a demon, another woman shouted. "We must burn it," another exclaimed. Soon they were surrounded by aggressive citizens. Izuku slowly got up and stood next to Bakugou. The latter put on his gauntlets and took him by the hand before saying, "Run," and they ran. The inhabitants ran after them as if they were the childs of the plague. They did what they could to distance them, but with Izuku's sprained ankle it was hard. The Bakugou and Todoroki had fled to the opposite direction. Bakugou rushed them into an alley, and they hid there for a few minutes. Izuku was out of breath, and he clung to Bakugou. He was even shaking. The blonde swore and tried to think. "You resurrected this child?" asked the blacksmith. "Yeah. Isn't it what you wanted with your watery eyes?" "Yes, it's wonderful what you just did. BLD magic is that powerful." Bakugou was surprised by this reaction. He expected Izuku to be disgusted. It was a special case. Several conditions were met for it to be possible, Bakugou explained. "But we don't have time to talk magic. It's too narrow here to make explosions." Izuku suddenly handed him a small dagger. "You'll use it better than me," he said. Bakugou went to grab it, but when his hand came into contact with the cold handle, a sound of frying was heard, and he screamed in pain before dropping the dagger on the floor. The blonde took his wrist with his other hand, and a bright red burn appeared. "What the DKU? What did you give me? Is that a black golden dagger?" "Yes." "What? Hell?" And everything lit up in Izuku's mind. Bakugou had not been burned in the inn. Bakugou had gauntlets that came from the dragon realm. Bakugou was making fire without artifacts. Bakugou was making fire. And Bakugou was allergic to black gold, like the majority of dragons. Dragon were immune to fire. Dragons don't burn. You're a dragon. Izuku realized as he picked up the dagger. "Half a dragon. I'm mixed, okay? My mother is a dragon and my father is a human." Wow. Interbreeding between races was something very taboo in Musutafu. A mixed couple with a dragon was even less accepted. On the side of the dragons, having carnal relationships with other species was something current, but it was extremely badly seen to have a romantic relationship with something else than a dragon, even more to have a child. That tribe was very strict about the quality of the BLD in a family. They only wanted pure-blooded. Within the human society, it was purely and simply prohibited to have a relationship with a dragon. With the human realm going to war against them, it put Bakugou in a delicate position. "What are you going to do now that you know? Are you going to denounce me, Deku?" Izuku watched him with surprise and approached slowly. "Stay away," Bakugou shouted, but Izuku didn't stop. He put his dagger back in his bag and took Bakugou's hand with delicacy before saying, "Are you okay? I'm sorry for burning you with the dagger. We'll ask Shoto to put ice on it." There was no judgment in those big green eyes. The blonde smiled a little and closed his eyes. It was this moment that the inhabitants chose to find them. They rushed with forks into the small alley, and Bakugou took Izuku against him. "You're half a dragon, right? Can you turn to one by any chance?" "Can't we fly out of here?" implored Izuku. "I don't want to transform myself. I hate it. It's not even a complete transformation." "Is it really the time to be difficult?" When one of the inhabitants failed to catch Izuku, he shouted, "Kakin, please turn into a dragon." The blonde made a face and bowed. Long black and orange dragon's wings came out his back, and scales spread to a few places on his face and arms. His nails were replaced by claws, and a tail grew. His gaze darkens. He took Izuku in his arms, and they flew off the ground under the shouts of the villagers. Yeet! That was Izuku. Bakugou flew high and squeezed the little blacksmith as if his life depended on it. Well, that was the case. They flew over the city and found the rest of the gang with Todoroki. They had their mounts and rode, it seemed, a bit randomly. Bakugou got further down, and when Kirishima saw him, he shouted, "DMN, Katsuki, bro, why did you turn?" So they knew. Bakugou pointed to the big city gate and exploded it with one explosion. "We'll have problems for that, I tell you," exclaimed Jiru. They all escaped from the city and fled as far as possible, and they managed to take their brand new cart with them. After a while, Bakugou landed, and the Baku squad stopped a little further. When both feet of the half-dragon reached the ground, Izuku didn't let go immediately. "We're on land now. Did you notice?" said Katsuki with a frown. Izuku blushed furiously and got out of the embrace of the taller one. He then placed himself in front of him and smiled at him, both embarrassed and excited. His gaze then twisted on the blonde's dragon attributes. Without thinking too much, he reached out his hands to touch the big wings. The blonde recoiled, but did not run away. Izuku tested the texture with his fingers. He was fascinated, but not in a bad or creepy way. He removed his hand and pulled back. "You're really amazing, Kaken," he said. Bakugou blushed, and Todoroki arrived like a whirlwind. He took Izuku in his arms and put a hand over his head. "You scared me so much, you're okay?" he asked in a whisper. It was rare for Todoroki to openly show affection, which surprised Izuku, who gave him a small smile and nodded. They separated, and it was then that Kirishima pulled his sword out of his scabbard and headed for Izuku. He took him firmly by the arm and placed his sword under his throat. Mina did the same thing with Todoroki. "Sorry, Midoriya. It's not against you, but since you saw Katsuki like that, we can't let you alive," explained the redhead. Todoroki snapped his fingers, and Mina's arm, which held the sword, was covered with ice. "You hurt him." "I hurt her," Todoroki said, nodding at Mina. "It's not against you. But the last time we trusted someone to keep the secret, we paid it dearly. We can't afford to end up in a dungeon or worse." "Idru," started Bakugou, turning himself into a human again. "No, Cat. I know what you're going to say. It's me who wanted to trust the last time, and look at what we've gone through after." Izuku turned his head towards Idru and murmured, "Kiri, I won't tell. I have no guarantee of that. Look at me in the eyes. Maybe you're a good liar." "Idru," repeated Bakugou louder. Izuku then put his hands on Kirishima's cheeks and looked straight into his eyes before saying, "It's okay." And he gave him a smile. "I won't tell. I don't know Kaken's story, but if he's coming from a love story between two species, I find it appealing. If not, I don't see how Kaken deserves to end up in a prison. He did nothing wrong, right?" Idru lowered his knife as Izuku spoke, and Shoto thawed Mina's arm as if he knew it was the end of the conflict. The redhead stared at Izuku. He seemed to believe him, and at the same time he was afraid. Bakugou stood between them. "Get away from him, hair for brains. He won't tell SHD to the authorities." Idru folded his arms and said, "You seems pretty sure of it. Since when do you trust strangers like that?" "He's a nerd. He's a blacksmith. He was raised by dwarves. Children made fun of him when he was little. He is too kind for his good and too smart. He doesn't like war, throw himself in burning houses to help strangers, and when he sleeps he snores. He's no longer a stranger. And his elf mate didn't kill you all when you, dumbass, put your knife under his throat." Kirishima went back on his horse. Izuku glanced at Bakugou and nodded to thank him as Todoroki, the elf mate, wondered where respect had gone. Bakugou looked away and went back to his own mount, which had been attached to Jairu's. They resumed their journey and after a long day, finally arrived in the Porthiathui Mountains. It was a very small rocky area with few visitors. No one lived there because of the heat first, with temperatures in the shade of around 50 degrees, and above all it was rather hostile. It was a strange place because it was really different from neighboring areas with a kind of microclimate. There was an astonishing contrast between these mountains, whose shape looked like it was supposed to be covered in snow, and the burning sun. The ladies of the cities liked to say that the climate was the work of a powerful wizard who reigned over these arid lands. For Izuku, the place was just a prowess of nature. It allowed plants, minerals, and rare or to exist. But he understood why people hated the place. It was, moreover, especially known to the dwarves. Sweaty, Kirishima eventually asked Izuku, "But why do you have to do that yourself? Extract, it's a special order. I can't just entrust it to someone else. My smithy is at stake, and the prototype I sent them is very elaborate. I'm the only one even able to choose the right stones, so I have to do it myself. When I submitted this prototype to the royal court, I didn't imagine that I would have to do that much more in that short PRD of time. I didn't think too much about it when I left, to say the truth. You were there. I took the opportunity. If I was to do it again, I would do otherwise. But All Might and other assistants are holding the shop as we speak, so I don't worry too much. Let's say it's faster if I go myself, and I have the guarantee that the work will be done if the people I pay to protect me don't cut my throat, of course." Kirishima seemed ashamed. "I'm sorry for that. We've been through a lot. We're suspicious now," he explained. "But I didn't give you any reason to be suspicious of me." "That's right. Sorry, bro. I'm going to be efficient. We'll save your forge. Izuku gave him a radiant smile and pointed to a green obsidian vein in the mountain. The group stopped, and Izuku pulled out his mining tools immediately as soon as he reached the ground. Shoto did the same. The blacksmith seized a short cloak with a hood from one of his bag and put it on. Aren't you going to be hot with that? Siro asked as he got off his horse. In this region, the sun is shining brightly, but there are regularly terrible showers. Also, if I don't cover my head, it's the ensured death given the physical work that it is to undermine obsidian, replied the blacksmith, grabbing his pickaxe. He approached the rock and meticulously selected and marked with a chalk a place to hit. He raised his pickaxe under the mercenary group's look, and Shoto pronounced an incantation. A white glow enveloped the pick, and Izuku knocked several times until a small piece of rock came off the mountain. He picked it up, blew on it, and brought it to the cart. Bakugou narrowed his eyes. Are you going to do that, by hand, under the sun, until you have enough pebble? He asked. Yes? What were you imagining? For the rest of the resources, I can buy it on the road, but green obsidian, it can't be bought at the local dealer, or those a little further away. It's nearly unbreakable. Only an expert mage like Shoto can imagine spells capable of breaking it, and he spent a good few months on it before he could achieve an enchantment that could break that dense stone. It's not given to just everyone. We're talking about advanced equipment here. The Kingsguard will be better equipped than his enemy. That I can tell you. Izuku explained as he dug his pick in the mountain once more. The group watched them work calmly, and when Izuku brought back his fourth stone, limping, Bakugou got angry. Deku, it's ridiculous. You'll never achieve it. Did you see the time you took to extract just that? If it takes you a week to undermine everything you need, you'll only have a week to make your stuff and come back. Your ankle looked like a watermelon. And what else do you want me to do? The king doesn't like me much. He will really burn my forge if I don't meet his expectations. He has already threatened me in the past. He did nothing before because he needs my talent. So I have to be talented. At least I have to try. Why did you open a smithy in this city if the king hates you? Kirishima asked, taking off his top. I wanted to show people that when you associate with other species, good things can come out of it. And I wanted to make a living. It's in this big city that everything happens. Izuku explained as he returned to his mining. And if I explode the whole mountain, you'll only have to pick up the pebbles? Bakugou asked, sitting down on the floor. You can't just blow up the mountain. It's obsidian. It won't go away. You'll see if it won't go away. Katsuki, under the bewildered eye of Izuku and Shoto, threw all his rage on the mountain. It exploded a good part of everything that was not green obsidian, but the precious res source didn't budge. Kakin sucks. Denki exclaimed before being banged on the head by Bakugou, who shouted, Don't call me that. Mina and Jiru drank water while complaining about the heat. Izuku returned to his work. After 2 hours, Shoto and Izuku seemed exhausted and dripping. An intense, icy downpour suddenly spilled over their backs, and the girl screamed. The drops were huge. It was like receiving water bombs continuously. Izuku didn't let go, however, and continued to hit while Shoto held up his spell on his pick. It seemed like a lot of concentration. After 2 minutes with a torn on their head, the spell disappeared for a second. At the very moment, Izuku's pickaxe hit the stone, and the shock tipped him back. Ouch! Shochan. Sorry, I lost focus for a moment. The elf apologized, screaming so that Izuku could hear him under the pouring rain. He helped him up. The rain stopped as suddenly as it arrived, and the intense heat returned. It's a climate to get sick, Izuku exclaimed, wringing Denki's t-shirt. You can go if it's too hard. Izuku offered. I don't think a monster is going to show up right now. Maybe you can wait outside the area. Do you think we're weak? Bakugou asked. He grabbed another pick and handed it to Shoto. Enchant this thing for me. I'll make it go faster, so we can all go away. Kakin, Izuku exclaimed. He thought he was going to cry. The lazy asses, come lend a hand too, if you don't want to stay here for the next 10 years, exclaimed the half-dragon, swinging them all Izuku's tools. They all helped, and the work went off much faster. It lasted several days, however. They had food with them for a week or so. After 4 days of all-day mining under these hard conditions, they were all extremely exhausted. Tell me again for how much gold we're doing this SCRT work already? Zero asked Jiru. It was 2,000 gold coins, I believe. Ah, it's worth it. Unless it leaves me with scars, he complained. Izuku and Shoto were the most tired. Shoto especially. Holding a spell so elaborate in time as he did was draining, both physically and mentally. But he did it for Izuku, for the forge. The blacksmith had damaged his joints on the third day, but had continued without complaining. Bakugou admired that. They were completely spent, however, and when yet another shower tore the heavens to fall upon them, they didn't have the strength to resist what followed. The picks and the torrential rain had weakened the ground so much that it sank without warning, and Izuku and Bakugou, who worked closest to the mountain, were snatched into the ground and fell into a crevasse a few meters down. The landslide instantly closed the hole. It was like the earth had eaten them. When Bakugou came back to his senses, the first thing he heard was the stifled voices of Shoto and Ijiru, who shouted his name and Izuku's respectively. The half-dragon looked in front of him, stunned. He was in complete darkness, but he could see in it. He didn't know what he had fallen into, but he could see it was a kind of cavernous formation, and he knew he had his but in water. He looked worriedly for the little blacksmith. If his name was called, then he must have fallen with him. When his gaze landed on his unmoving body, covered with dust and mud, he rushed towards him. Deku. He cleaned the guy a little and looked for a pulse. There was one. He heard him cough. 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 Kakin? I can't see anything. Izuku complained. It's because we're in the dark, dumbass. Are you okay? I think so, apart from my ankle. We must have fallen into a landslide. This is not good. Can you make some fire with your magic? Yes, but at worst, I can see in the dark. Seriously? Yes, it's something that I got from my mother. All the dragons are not good at it, but I can see pretty very well. It's great. You know what that means. We're not going to die here. Great indeed. Bakugou lit a fire at the end of his fingers. Is there a way out? There's a path that seems to be going on, but we have to go down and go deeper into the ground. Kirishima's voice became louder suddenly. It's okay, shitty hair. We are alive. Shut the up. Oh, thanks the gods, Bakugou. Don't dig anymore, okay? Otherwise we may end up buried. Midoriya shouted, his voice broken. Good thing you told us. AG, put this shovel down. Denki exclaimed. God damn it, Bakugou said, dismayed. We will try to find a way out ourselves. If we don't return by a few hours, try to find an exit too. Izuku asked, getting up and leaning on the blonde. Kakin, we'll have to take the path that goes down. Are you sure of yourself? We don't really have a choice. They went deeper until they reached a cul-de-sac with water. The path seemed to continue, but underwater. Okay now, you're going to be in the dark, noted Bakugou. I'm scared, Izuku confessed, looking at the water. It's going to be okay. I'm a good swimmer. Good because I don't know how to swim. Are you serious? Yeah, I'm a dwarf citizen, remember? Dwarves hate water, I never learned. Oh my, how are we going to do? Okay, you're going to cramp yourself to me and just hold your breath. I don't think I can. Deku. Bakugou took his face in his hands and forced him to look at him. You can do it. Okay. Bakugou rushed into the water without further warning, and Izuku clung to his back. It's so cold, he exclaimed. If I notice that the surface is too far, or you have no air left, we go back, okay? And without more ceremony, he took a deep breath and plunged into the water. It was cold as death. He swam for a while. Time seemed to be suspended. He heard nothing but the sounds of his body stirring in the water. He regularly turned his head to Izuku to check that everything was fine. He had his eyes shut tight, and big bubbles punctually came out of his mouth. Soon he found an exit, and they were out of the water taking big puffs of air. Hwah! The blacksmith inhaled loudly. You did a Kakin. Yeah. Are you okay? I am. I think. I'm just very cold. We're not dressed for this temperature. Come on. Let's walk, it will warm you up. And they walked. They rushed into several tunnels, sometimes turning back, until Izuku throws at him. I can't anymore. I need a break. We have no time. We have no food, and we don't know how long we will still be running in circles like this. But I can't anymore, Kakin. Izuku firmly said, kneeling on the ground. His leg was swollen. Bakugou sighed, exhausted too, and stooped before asking him to get on his back again. Izuku hesitated, but exhaustion prevailed. He let the blonde carry him on his shoulders. After another hour of wandering, Izuku said, "You're really nice, in fact. I'm just fed up with all your whining." "No, I know you're nice. You turned into a dragon when you don't like it to save me. I didn't have much choice back then. I have the feeling that you would have tried something else if I had not been there. Why do you hate your dragon parts so much? It's wonderful. It was a love story." "What?" "Between my mom and dad, but dragons killed him because of it. I hate them. It's sad. Your story is like Shoto's. His parents are powerful elves, and he's from an arranged marriage. His mother has fallen ill because of the mistreatment of his father, and since then he rejects the elven culture. That's why he came to live among humans. Full of defect, as he said, but we have things that others don't." "Yeah, that's true. I hate everybody, but there are some that I hate less than others, especially in humans." "I see. You're so hot. A few minutes ago you complained of being cold. You're so pretty. I want to go with you to the festival. Why did you give me the wrong number?" "Deku, you're saying weird things. Are you okay?" "I went up the stairs 10 times already." Bakugou frowned and put Izuku on the floor to examine him. He was red and burning with fever. He seemed to be delirious. "Great. When did you get sick? Kakin, there are 2 of you." "Dash. You're right, it's probably too much." Bakugou put him on his back again and continued on his way. He had to get out of this wet place. He advanced into the caves until he fell on a crazy vision in one of the turns. There was a house. A dash. DMN. House. Even more than that. A manor. A huge thing built on stilts. Someone lived in these caves, and not like a poor fellow. Bakugou couldn't believe his eyes. "Deku, you said the dwarves knew this area well. Have you ever heard of that? MHH? A house?" "Yeah, it's the sorcerer house." "Ah, so cold. Is he safe?" "It's a legend. Children's stories." "You're useless." "Maybe that creepy has medicine." "I don't want to take medicine. It tastes bad." "Shut up." Bakugou walked towards the house with an uncertain step. He swallowed and tried to look like he knew what he was doing. Izuku began to breathe hard and seemed to fight for consciousness almost every 3 minutes. He needed rest, a hot meal, and a bath. And that, if possible, for it not to be the last ones. He arrived at the front door, heavily lit by unnatural flames, and slowly pushed the door open. Nobody. For now. He was in the main room. The interior was less opulent than the outside. The living room was cozy and the furniture simple and mostly in wood. He noticed a pot on a fire. He approached and lifted the lid, trying not to salivate. It was a meat broth with vegetables. He hesitated a moment, and seeing that no one was coming, he grabbed 2 bowls, still with Izuku on his back, and dipped a spoon in. He put Izuku on a chair and served him a glass of water from a jug not far from the cauldron. It was then that a man entered, tall, with glasses and a stern look. "I can't believe it. I have made it one of my priorities to rot the whole area, to make the visitors flee, and here I have 2 of them in my house, stealing my stew." Bakugou took a knife and pointed it at the man. "We're not staying. My friend is sick. I need him to eat something hot and rest for a while. Here, put this knife on the table. I know you won't use it anyway." "Are you a soothsayer?" "Yes, you can say that. I'm Sir Knight I, an enchanter." "Well, you're smart. You don't give out your name easily. What are you doing in the mountain?" "I live here, and I'm trapped here because of a monster, an ogre, blocking the only way out." "Are you serious? An ogre?" "Yes, do I look like a joker?" "Honestly, yes. I decided to settle down when I realized that I couldn't go out. He is aggressive. He is 4 meters tall and lives in the dark. We cannot light anything or he attacks. I'm doing bad weather in the area to prevent people from getting stuck in caverns and finishing like me, but it seems it wasn't enough. We came to extract obsidian. Money. It makes people stupid. It's more complicated than that. Crazy asparagus. Can we stay here one night, or will I have to impose myself? And then we'll go away. You're stuck here anyway. You won't be able to beat the ogre." "We'll see about the ogre later. My friend has a freaking high fever. Do you have something for him?" Yes, I should have enough to bring down his fever. Your shitty weather makes people sick. It's to prevent people like you from being trapped like now. Yeah, right. Now we're trapped and sick. I'm coming back. Kakin, whispered Izuku, sweaty. It's okay, Deku. You'll rest a bit, and we'll continue after. Bakugou talked more with the wizard after that. He was a man in his 40s who apparently had the gift of clairvoyance. Bakugou had asked for his future, but Night Eye had refused to reveal it to him. He explained that this was also why he didn't want to live in cities. It was never good to know your future. He offered his modest, hand-built bed to Izuku, and Bakugou wrapped him in a blanket after feeding him and giving him a mixture of herbs for the fever. He sat at his bedside with a sigh until Izuku opened his eyes in the middle of the night. Bakugou, you don't cack me now, Deku? I'm sorry, I've been out for how long? Long enough for me to say you have 26 freckles on your stupid nose. Shoto's gonna be dead worried. Not for long. I'm bringing you out as soon as you can move. I feel like SHD. Will you work hard for that, stupid Pebbles? Have you taken care of me all this time? That's why you're paying me for. I should give you a bonus. No need, I'm okay. You're the one feeling like SHD. I had a nightmare of something I lived. I was in love once of a man, a dwarf. He was tall, not as big as All Might, but tall and strong. He was nice to me. He told me that I was cute and pretty. I was in love with him, and he knew it. He made me believe that he was too. Then we had SEC, and he dumped me, saying he just wanted to have SEC with a human to see how it felt. He's a big CNT, but you were naive as dash, answered Bakugou. That's true, said Izuku with a weak voice. Bakugou wanted to burst this dwarf's face for doing this to Izuku in truth. Maybe it was because he was sick, but Bakugou confided in him without thinking. We are the same, you and I. I also loved once. A human. He's the guy Kirishima had talked about. When I showed him that I was a half-dragon, he said that I was a disgusting mistake, and he denounced me to the authorities. We're not from Musutafu, in fact, you know? Well, my mother is from here, but I didn't grow up here. We had to flee our homes because of him. Izuku put his hands on his cheeks and said, You're not disgusting, and you're not a mistake. Bakugou laughed. No, I know. I'm great. And that guy that broke your heart was a JRK. He doesn't know what he's lost. That's a nice thing to say to me. So you're gay too? That a good news. How so? I don't know. It feel less lonely. Sleep now, nerd. Dream of something better like me. Yeah. Good idea. I'll be dreaming of you. You screaming, you shouting, you eating while yelling. That will be peaceful. Brat. Sometimes. Sleep. Okay. Izuku closed his eyes, and Bakugou found himself removing his sticky hair from his forehead in a loving gesture. He sighed. He was really starting to develop affection for this nerdy blacksmith with stupid freckles, and he didn't know how to feel about it. Thank you for joining us on this journey through What If Deku Becomes Famous Blacksmith? We hope you found it as captivating as we did. A big thank you to Momola for creating such an engaging story. Don't forget to visit their profile on fanfiction.net for more fantastic works. The link is in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Zenin Fanfics for more intriguing explorations into fanfiction and fantasy. Your support helps us create more content like this, and we love hearing your thoughts and suggestions in the comment section. See you soon in the next video.